everyone, and welcome to episode 264 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Ryan, Adam, and Trey here with you this evening to preview Week 12 in the CFL. We'll take a look at major storylines, fantasy players to watch, and betting picks for each of the games here this evening. Welcome in one and all as we are 1 week before Labor Day and also at the last Thursday night football game of the year this week as summer rolls on. We are live on a variety of different platforms thanks to our presenting sponsor Game Time TV. You can learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. If you're joining us live here tonight, throw in your comments, throw in your questions in the live chat throughout the night as well. Before we bring in the panel, we do want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples in the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. First up, let's bring in the man who is in a different location than he was 1 week ago when we were recording our last episode. Trey, new office, but same old Trey. How you doing tonight?
I don't think I'll ever change. I don't think I've matured in 12 years, so it's okay. I'm doing good, man. Just got moving done. As you guys probably both know, how much moving sucks, especially in an apartment to a house, couches and all that nonsense. But, yeah, I my joke was the next time I move is when I get put into the grave. That's about it. Or my kids put me in old folks home and then they can clear out this house because I'll be senile. So other than that, but I'm doing pretty good. Adam, man, looking good, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Lots of stuff happening. Harvest is on the way here. We did try the other day. Went and did some swathing, and now it's pouring rain and thundering and lightning and everything else outside. A little bit too bad, but yeah, hopefully that goes away soon so we can get back to the harvest stuff.
That makes me sad. I mean, summer's almost over, eh? If it's harvest.
It is.
And you see the cobra chicken starting to gather too, eh? A little bit. And you know that's not good.
Yeah. Actually seen some sandhill cranes the other day, so when they're back, it's pretty much starting to turn the other ways. But that means there's some good football coming up.
Hey, the season starts at Labor Day, so we have one more week of nonsense to talk about before we have to start being professional here, right? That's how it goes. It's a big bite of sandwich. I love it. Perfect timing.
Chicken wrap. Chicken wrap.
Oh, chicken wrap. Nice. Couple housekeeping notes. We mentioned the Discord always. I'll mention it here again because we got a lot of exciting stuff going on in there. Link is in the episode description. It's free to join there if you would like to join our Discord community. We've got our CFL game chat, CFL fantasy betting, just general CFL conversation going on there. We also have a couple bonus things going on in there as well. Every Monday, Mike and I, typically in the mornings, record a recap of the previous week of the CFL and also the Discord call-in show. So if you want to join us live for that and send in your comments and questions, join the Discord community. You can also catch the audio feed later that night generally as well on all the podcast platforms. It was a jam-packed Week 11 in the CFL. There was a ton of news, a ton of action from this weekend's games. We got through it all in maybe the most efficient 45-minute episode we've ever done. So check that out from this week's recap there as well. NFL season starts not 2 weeks from now, guys. And with the NFL season coming up, we're also doing an NFL fantasy league. If you want to play in that alongside us, check out the Discord community for that as well. The NFL channel there's a link to sign up if you're interested in joining the NFL fantasy league and get that entry in by end of Friday night this week, so you have a couple of days if you're interested in that. And we'll likely have a live stream or a video after the fact of the draft coming up next week as well. So look for that on our YouTube channel next week for a little bonus content there. Yeah, I guess before we get into the games here today, I'll hand it over to Adam first because we got some sad news in the Saskatchewan Roughrider community today.
Yeah, unfortunately, about 5 p.m. it was announced that head coach Kent Miller, he was a head coach from 2008 up until, I believe, 2011, I think it was, for the Riders. Passed away here due to cancer. It was, again, terrible thing. One of the winningest coaches of the Rough Riders. Had a very good run when he was here. Took over in 2000, and he was here in 2007 as the offensive coordinator. Won the Grey Cup with Ken to Austin and the rest of the Riders that time when Kerry Joseph was here. Went back in 2008, became the head coach after Kent Austin left off to Mississippi. 2008, they were the first place team, or second place team, I guess, in the West. Lost out, well, we won't talk about Michael Bishop. Nevertheless, it was 2008. But I think what the Riders fans loved about him was, it was like your grandpa was coaching the team. It was the best way of describing it. He'd walk in, he'd make sure every person felt like $1 million that they were a part of the team. It seemed like he was a guy that would talk to the media like he was talking to an old friend about football. He loved the game. He was a great ambassador for the league when he was here. And I don't think you'll find a single media, a fan, old player that would say something bad about Ken Miller. I mean, the guy was just kind of a living legend. 2 years ago, he got inducted into the Plaza of Honor for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Does leave a wife. He's a family as well. Overall, though, Ken Miller, one of the great guys for the Rough Riders, and definitely will be missed around Saskatchewan.
Absolutely. I can't say it any better than that, so I'm not even going to try. Rest in peace, Ken Miller, and condolences to family, friends, and everybody that holds him near and dear. Well, there's no really easy way to transition into game previews from that, so we'll just go and do it awkwardly and say game preview time. First game of the week is one that has some drama involved with it, and it is the Saskatchewan Rough Riders heading to Toronto to face the Toronto Argonauts. I think we all know what the first topic to discuss in this one is. It is the return of Chad Kelly from his suspension. And Chad Kelly is officially named the starter here. Are you guys surprised that Kelly is back? Two-part question. Are you surprised that Kelly is back this week? And what are your expectations for him out on the football field this week? Let's go to you first, Adam.
No, I'm not surprised one bit. I think that this was pretty much formality after they pretty much finished his training or his consultation or whatever it was that he was taking. He had the meeting there with Randy Ambrosi. There's a little bit of a kind of a mixed feeling about a last chance clause, apparently, of some sort. I don't know what that was all about. And came back pretty much, was shielded pretty much by the Toronto Argonauts. Was told no, only football related questions is all Ryan did what he's going to answer. I liked how actually, and most times I don't like how Justin Dunk does some business once in a while, but this one I think he did right. He said essentially any question right now about Chad or anything is football related, no matter what it is. But nevertheless, they are going to say answering questions. They're going to play Chad Kelly. They're going to have him as a starter. Lots of interesting things going on in this game. I think the Rider Nation is growing very, very big for this game. Just because of Chad Kelly. Trey, what do you got on your old quarterback?
See, maybe I'm a shitty person, but I just want him to do good because then that makes people matter, right? Like, I don't care what I do. What he did off the field was whatever. We're not going to talk about that, but on the field, I'm just that kind of person. I love when Trump says something stupid because people go off. And I'm the same thing with Chad Kelly. If he goes for 400 yards, people are going to get mad and it'll be great. Realistically, I mean, he can't be much worse than Rourke's return, can he? I think Rourke set the bar pretty low for quarterbacks returning this midseason here. So, I mean, Toronto's been kind of on a slump. I mean, whatever you can do, has he really? And I mean, he can't be around the team. That doesn't mean he hasn't been working out. That doesn't mean he hasn't been doing individual training. I mean, and what's team? Could he have a receiver buddy come out and do routes at a park in Toronto? You know what I mean? Is that allowed? He just can't be at the facility, right? I'm pretty sure that's what Tom Brady did when he was on his 4-game Deflategate suspension, is he invited his friends, the teammates, to his house, and they held private practices without coaches. So, I mean, he probably is going to be okay. And what does he got? Who does he have? Saskatchewan? Saskatchewan's on a downhill too. Both these teams are kind of trending downwards, and it'll be interesting to see. Because again, is Harris starting this weekend? So I mean, who do you have more faith in, Harris returning from injury or Chad Kelly? You know what I mean? Both guys haven't really seen the field lately.
Well, this would be Harris's second week back. He did return last week. Who did they play last week? Montreal. And he looked fairly good in that one. But yeah, that was kind of why I asked expectations on Kelly this week, because I think Dinwiddie even said in practice that, he was taking a bit longer to consider what he was going to do this week after seeing how Rourke fared on 3 days of practice for the Lions. And yeah, Kelly hasn't been able to be with the team. Has he been working out when he's been away from it? I don't know. Does his social media tell the story on that? Because if that's any indication, and maybe he hasn't, but it is a good point. He could be in great game shape already. We don't know. We'll find out Thursday night on this one. I'm in the camp that I think a lot of other people are in right now, where it's just the opposite of what you're saying there, Trey. I want to see him fail. I want to see him fail Thursday night. I want to see the Riders defense eat him alive. Last time Chad Kelly was on a CFL field, he threw 6 interceptions against, wasn't it 6 turnovers or something like that against Montreal Alouettes in the playoffs. I want to see the Riders defense eat them alive this week. And it's going to be a test for them, because I think that defense has taken a bit of a step back in recent weeks. I think, he had a couple of weeks ago where the Elks ate the Riders' run defense alive. That was supposedly very good before then. So you mentioned Saskatchewan on a downward slide, and yeah, they kind of need to get back on track here as well, because they were the front runners in the West Division, and now all of a sudden they're, thanks to their tie, they're up on BC. But Winnipeg and Calgary are both 3 points back of them only in the standings. And you got a home and home with the Bombers coming up here. So, Adam, what do you think on the Riders' side here? How do they get things back on track for them?
Honestly, watch the game last week. To me, the Riders weren't the offense wasn't the problem last week. The defense really wasn't the problem last week. I think both teams actually, or both the sides of the ball for the Riders, had really good a good game. I mean, they did shut down Alexander in that game, and I mean, I think they did all right. But my thing was their special teams needs to improve big time. Mario Alford hasn't been making returns like he has over the last little while. He's not getting those long yardage even, or getting those like turnaround pace. Adam Korczak isn't the problem, but boy, Brett Lowther needs to get these footballs back between the uprights, because honestly, the Rough Riders win that game last week, no question, if they don't let those 7 points go by them from a return on a missed field goal. And then there was 3 other missed field goals that really could have turned that game right around for the Rough Riders. The offense did what they had to do to get the game won. Defense, yeah, there's some moments where it's Amari Henderson is one of those guys that was kind of getting burned a little bit last week. He's out. I believe it is, I can't remember the name right now, but nevertheless, guy coming in and swapping him in place. If it's Miles Brown or if it's a different guy, I'm not sure. Nevertheless, the Riders, I think, like I said, they just got to get their special teams going, and most especially, it needs to be Brett Lowther that needs to get going. I was very surprised that Corey Mace has decided that, you know what, we're not even bringing a guy in to kind of, give some challenge to Lowther, but he has faith in him, so I guess we'll see what happens this week. Trey?
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to have a kicker that's money, right? And the kicker is probably the worst job to have, because like you said, the most games you just kick 3 extra points and nobody cares about you, and then you have a bad game or you miss a game-winning field goal and everyone's on you. To me, has he been that bad this year, or is it just one bad game? Has he? Maybe I haven't watched him now.
I thought he was better this year than last year.
No. He had a game against Edmonton that was pretty questionable. He's had a game against BC that missed like a 35 yarder. And now against Montreal, he just had a dud. Don't get me wrong. I hope he comes back this week and has a great game against Toronto. but Lowther hasn't been the same this year. In preseason, he was terrible. And regular season, I said, he's had some good games. He's had some poor games. He had to walk off, which was nice. But it's up and down with Brett Lowther this year. I think, they're starting to see it that they need to move on.
He's last in field goal percentage at 70.
I just looked that up too. Yeah.
You can't win with that. You need in pro football, you need 90s, for the most part, which most guys.
And don't get me wrong, on the other side of the football in punting, Adam Korzak has been great.
Yeah.
And like I say, the other side of it also, Mario Alford has not made the returns like he used to. He had the one big touchdown return for a touchdown there. But other than that, it seems like either he makes a big play or he makes no play. So the special teams of the Riders need some work. If they need to bring back Craig Dickinson just for that part, maybe they need to go bowling and figure this thing out. But they got to figure it out soon.
Maybe they could hire him as a defensive senior assistant or whatever for free.
For free, yeah.
Gosh.
Isn't Craig Dickinson on the Stamps staff right now, right? I think him and Dave are working together right now. Some notable injury news as we transition, I think, into fantasy talk here, unless anybody has anything else. AJ Ouellette was placed on the 6-game injured list for the Riders this week. That's one of those offseason signings that was so hyped up with Ouellette, and early in the season, he got nothing going in the run game. He's had a couple decent games here and there, and missed some time due to injury. Now he's going to be out for a little while, it sounds like. So that sucks, because Ouellette's one of those guys you can market the team around for sure. Frankie Hickson is getting the start at running back in his place this week. And notable, Keon Schaefer-Baker is back from injury for the first time since week 7. I think Mitchell Picton is out with injury, and he slides in there. So, you know what? As we get into talking fantasy here, starting off on the Saskatchewan Roughriders side, it's really hard for me to decide which receiver I like among this team because they've got a lot of good options, and I never know which one's going to go off. You've got Dante Myers, who's stepped up in the last 2 weeks, averaged 18 fantasy points in each of them. We've got Keyshawn Johnson, who's gotten some more work in the last couple of weeks as well and looked good. Keon Schaefer-Baker's coming up back from injury. Sam Emelis has been pretty consistent. Sean Payne Jr. has some good games here and there. So to me, I'm almost staying away probably from Riders in fantasy because I don't know which one to take this week. And I think there are teams where I'm more confident on the receivers there. But I do like Frankie Hickson coming back into the lineup. I thought he showed some juice a little bit better than Ouellette actually did in his games earlier this year. In three starts, over 85 yards on the ground there for him. I like that. And I think I like Trevor Harris as one of the quarterback options. The Argos pass defense has gotten a lot better actually in recent weeks than it was. It's no longer the one to easily pick on, but in all of the games he hasn't gotten injured yet. In the 3 games he played start to finish, Trevor Harris has put up over 20 fantasy points in each of those. So those are some of the Riders I'm tossing around. I'll go over to the Toronto side here in a little bit. Good evening, first of all, to everybody who's joined us in the chat here. We've got Charlie joining us for the first time, so welcome in. Great to see people joining us in the live chat. But let's go to you guys here first, and then I'll come back on the Argos side. Adam, you want to go first?
Yeah, actually, I'll be honest, I don't know. Yeah, no, I've only got one Rough Rider on the whole package of Rough Riders. Frankie Hickson was on my roster, and I still... again, cheaper running back. He does make a few plays for the Rough Riders, and the Riders do try to run the ball. But the only guy I got right now is the Rough Riders defense, only because, and that might be more of a hope than a actual pick, I just want to see the Rough Riders get about 14, 15 sacks. Trey?
I thought of that, but no, I have a different team in defense right now. Actually, right now, I kind of stayed away from Saskatchewan. They've just been so up and down with injuries and stuff. I'm a little scared, and yeah, this game in general is a little scary to go with from both sides, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to happen, right, in this game. We have no idea like Toronto's offense, as we flip over to the Toronto side, has been, at least the passing game has been miserable for the past 5 weeks, flipping back and forth between Dukes and Arbuckle. And now Kelly comes in, and it's a lot of the same receivers he had last year. And Kelly was the MOP last year and did so without, I would say a top tier wide receiver core necessarily. They were very good. So is Kelly going to elevate any of these guys? I'm still not taking a Toronto receiver till I see one locked in as the favorite target. I would stay away from Kelly in fantasy this week, actually, as well, just after what happened. So many people took Nathan Rourke last week, and he finished with 3.7 fantasy points in that one. So I'm not doing it on Kelly this week. Let's see if he is actually back or not. The one Argo I would consider putting in my lineup, and I think in terms of running back plays, I definitely like him more than I like Hickson, and that is Kadeem Carey, because he has been so consistent throughout the season so far. No weeks under 10 points. He's been a top 5 running back every week but one. You're guaranteed to get a solid floor of points from Kadeem Carey, and he has a touchdown almost every week as well. So. And we saw what the Riders defense was able to do against a good run game a couple of weeks ago, based on some of the injuries they have. Anybody on the Argos side for either of you?
Just Carey. That's my one guy I would go in this game with.
Adam may have frozen due to his internet issues, so I will remove him from the stream for now until we see movement from one Adam Stewart.
I thought it was me. Adam's looking at me with a silly.
Oh, there he is. Adam's back. There he is. Anybody on the Argos side for you, Adam?
The only one was Kadeem Carey. I mean, You're right. He's consistent. I would probably always go with Carey unless unless you don't have him on your team.
Well, yeah, you can't do that if you don't have him on your team. That is how it works. Betting?
Yeah. What is it? 3? -3? Ooh, Toronto's favorite. Oh. I haven't looked at any of these, so this is going to be just completely waking up here. Toronto is -3, hosting Saskatchewan over under 50.5. Oh, man. Gotta give me a minute. I usually prep these.
How much do you think the line has changed since Kelly? Well, I guess Kelly was announced to be reinstated on Sunday already, probably before the lines were heavily up already. So I don't know if it would have changed that much. But
I don't even think it would move, because I bet they would think, is it going to be like last week? But then you also will probably have some money coming in on him with the reigning MOP and stuff like that. So it kind of balances out. I don't actually remember what it opened up as, but you know what? Give me Toronto, just because it is that round number, and I could see it being a push kind of situation, which we've dealt with a couple times this year, or at least once. So I take that, and you know what? I'll take the under though. Ryan, let's go with you before we go to Adam and the coin.
Yeah, sure. I've bet against them almost every time this year, and this week I'm not going to do that. I'm going to finally believe in the Saskatchewan Roughriders to get back on track before the Labor Day Classic in Vanderbilt head-to-head with the Bombers. So give me Saskatchewan +3 here. I think I'm really high on their receiver core right now, and I think Trevor Harris can sling it as good as any QB in the league when he's healthy. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Over under 50.5. Yeah, I think I'll take the under.
I already had it typed in. You're not I didn't think this was an over game for you.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm 0-12 in over-unders in the last 3 weeks. So I ultimately decided to go with under because that's what Trey typed in for me, because I've got nothing on over-under right now.
I just was thinking, he doesn't think these teams can score. Adam, what do you got, buddy?
Adam might be frozen again. We might be losing Adam here.
Richard's got a question while we wait. Is a Rusty Kelly worse than an Arbuckle on top of his game? I mean, we could have said the same thing about Rourke and Dolegala, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I think
Or an Arbuckle on top of his game. What does Arbuckle on top of his game look like? Because we haven't seen that in 4 years, right?
Too. I think it's just you're sending the message that we got to go with our guy. If he's the number one guy, you go with him. That's what Rourke is. Rourke didn't come in to sit a week behind VA, and I don't think Kelly didn't sign whenever he signed with Toronto to sit back there. So I think that's kind of what we're going to do. And he's not going to get unrusty unless you throw him in, right?
Adam's back, and more importantly, the coin is back. Yeah. What would we do without it? So, Adam, what do you and the coin have to say?
Oh, no.
Oh, he's here.
I'm here for 2 seconds. I'm going to flip this coin real fast. It tells me the Saskatchewan Roughriders are winning the game. Woo. And I will go with the team that, Ken Miller's favorite saying was what the Roughriders do. They ride. So, I don't know what that meant. There's some weird saying he had. But nevertheless, I'm going to go with the Roughriders this week. The only other team that Miller played with or was with was the Argonauts. So, kind of cool these two teams are playing this week. But give me the Riders. Give me the under on this game. And, with that.
I like it.
Prop bets on this game. Anybody have those open already? I can start us off because I've been looking through them here. The game is in Toronto. To answer a chat comment there. Give me Kadeem Carey over 60.5 rushing yards as my player prop for this week on FanDuel. I really like that number. I really like what I've seen from Carey. And in the last 7 games, he's hit over that number 5 times. So pretty consistent, like we said. Anybody else have any player props open?
I'm actually surprised they even have numbers for Kelly, just with the uncertainty of them. But they do have 260.5 for passing yards and 1.5 for passing touchdowns. Heck, give me the over on Kelly. Give me over 260.5. Watch him be better than Rourke, and everyone start worrying.
Do they have the total number of sacks on Toronto?
They don't.
Oh man, I'm going with the over. I'm just going to be that crazy guy this week. Yeah, honestly, I can't see much. My computer's crashing every 20 minutes. We're in storm warning in Saskatchewan, and it hasn't been fun. So
look at the dedication of this guy.
Well,
still here, and
until there's a tornado coming, then I'm hitting the basement and saying, "The heck with you guys."
Yes, you should absolutely do that if that's the case.
No, I'm just under severe storm warning. Not
okay.
Sorry, quick tangent. I saw that new Twisters movie. Oh my god, I want to be a storm wrangler so bad.
Have fun. Just keep away from my farm.
Oh man, I'm going to Oklahoma for show, boys. Oh my goodness. That movie.
All right.
And in the D box? Okay, anyway, let's go.
Moving on to our second game. Trey, we've got only so much time until Adam's internet dies for good here.
That's fair.
The Hamilton Tiger Cats visiting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The betting line at -9.5 in favor of the Bombers at home on this game. Two teams seemingly trending in opposite directions. The Bombers are on the upswing. If you saw Trey's power rankings this week, even Trey put them at number 3, which is surprising. And Hamilton, I think we all agree, is at number 9 because they have looked atrocious in recent weeks. I think the biggest storyline on this game is that Bo Levi Mitchell is back as the starter again because Taylor Powell started last week's game for Hamilton, lasted about, less than a quarter. Went down with an injury. Bo came back in, and now Powell's on the 6-game injured list, and Bo is starting again just 2 weeks after he was benched and his daughters started a lemonade stand to help fund his job. That's the story on Bo Levi Mitchell. The legacy of Bo Levi Mitchell will also reign forever in our CFC Fantasy Draft League. Let's just take a minute to appreciate the ups and downs that Bo Levi Mitchell has gone through this year. Because we were just chatting about this earlier today. Mike drafted Bo in the fantasy draft in the opening season draft, released him after about 2 or 3 weeks because he felt he wasn't producing. I famously spent $100, my entire waiver wire money, on said Bo Levi Mitchell. Kept him on the bench for a while, played him 1 week. He was the top scoring quarterback that week. Played him one more time where he got -1 and was benched after 2 drives. I proceeded to drop him for Taylor Powell. Taylor Powell gets injured. Bo comes back in. Bo's back to being the starter now, but he's not on my roster. And then this very week, Adam tries to bid $1 to gift Bo Levi Mitchell to me in the fantasy league, stating that Ryan having Bo helps me beat him. But makes an invalid roster move in doing so it doesn't go through, and he decides to cancel it. I get Bo Levi Mitchell for $0 because nobody else bid him. And then I cut Bo 5 minutes later after I traded Mike for Zach Collaros. So after all this, Bo Levi Mitchell is back on the waiver wire in our fantasy league, but he'll be starting Friday night here in Winnipeg. So let's start with Hamilton. Mark Washington gets fired as defensive coordinator because their defense has let them down all year. Chris Jones comes in, and apparently they're not paying him the rest of the year. That's a cap circumvention if I've ever heard it. Is this year over for Hamilton? Like, where do you go from here if you're the Ticats, and how do you rectify things with Bo being back as starter? Trey, you want to go first?
Yeah, but it's a CFL. I mean, are they really out of it? Like, what are they? 2 games out of a playoff spot? 3 out of a playoff spot, and usually the later half of the year is division heavy. I mean, it's not looking good. It looks to be like they're the only team that doesn't have a winning record in the East at home. That's great. We know about how home field matters. So I don't know. We always say it, like we always say it every year, and then watch they get on a little streak, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't know. It's football. They could. This week could be a trap game for all I know. They're only 2 wins down of Winnipeg. Are they really that much worse, Adam?
It does feel like it could have trap game vibes for it for sure. And you mentioned, getting on a bit of a roll. I guarantee you Hamilton wins like 2 games in the next 4, and I'm claiming they're getting first in the East or something like that. I always pick my team on the roll late in the season. That never works out. But I don't know, Adam, any thoughts on the Ticats?
They're 2-7. They're not going anywhere. I'm sorry, Hamilton fans.
2-8. 2-8.
Huh, okay, well, that's better. They're 2-8. They're not going anywhere. I'm sorry, Hamilton fans. They can go for a full heater right now, go 10-8. They're still probably not make the playoffs. Toronto's a better team right now with Chad Kelly on it. Ottawa looks better than they have in a few years. Montreal's still destined, looks like, to take the East so far. And Hamilton got Chris Jones. I don't think that's an improvement, to be honest with you. So, no. Sorry, Hamilton. Somebody's got to be out of this, and it's you this year. Is this a trap game? Could be. I could see him beating Winnipeg, but it's too late.
I feel like the Ticats don't have to pay pay Chris Jones, because having Chris Jones is payment enough.
They should pay. Chris Jones should pay them. Seriously. Yeah. Like, why? I mean, you don't play Edmonton anymore this year. If you wanted some insight on Edmonton, fair enough. But after that, get down the road, go back to Mississippi.
I am more interested in, because we've always talked about Chris Jones as this great defensive mind, and we have not seen it the last couple of years here, right? But is he similar to how Paul LaPolice is a better offensive coordinator than he is a head coach? Is having Chris Jones just focused on the defense enough to help him dial it in a little bit better than when he's the coach, when he's the GM, and all of that involved? Like, is it too many distractions for him there is something that I wonder with Chris Jones. But I also, on the other hand, wonder, is it too much of a distraction in the other direction bringing him in? Because, I don't know, having a guy like that on your roster or on your coaching staff that we've seen, take over teams, take over the coach role, take over the GM role, like is Scott Milanovich, doing his job with a look over his shoulder at Chris Jones of like, oh, if I don't turn this around, I'm out and he's the guy next year? Like, to me, it seems like it could be a bit of a distraction. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
Who would have thought Chris Jones being the heir apparent? Right? Like, he goes to any team.
No.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, you know what? I know he's a good defensive coach, but honestly, look at those teams that he had to coach also. In Toronto, he had such a monster of a team. Of course you're going to be a good defensive coordinator. In Edmonton way back in the day, yeah, that's what they were known for, was being a big defensive team. All of a sudden you come into Saskatchewan and you go into Edmonton again, and you have to build everything from scratch, and it don't work. Was Saskatchewan going to get better? Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I have no use for Chris Jones as a coach. I'll put it that way. Especially not a general manager.
I love how the tune has changed. I almost got jumped in Saskatchewan at a Labor Day because I said Chris Jones was garbage 5 years or 6 years, whatever you coach, and now you guys all hate him.
We're just resentful that we gave him $600,000 and he didn't do nothing with it.
Well, that's like a certain quarterback we paid too, right? That didn't do nothing. So
I wasn't quite that much, but
so, anyway,
we played lots of quarterbacks. Saskatchewan's paid lots of quarterbacks over the years that didn't do nothing. So finally, Winnipeg got one.
I see what you're saying. Maybe it's my skepticism on Winnipeg because I only put them third because I'm tired of getting Bomber fans in the comments. It's like, oh, what are you talking about? They're better than the 2-7 this. I'm like, okay, whatever. Again, if you have hashtag for the W in your bio, I don't care your opinion on the Bombers because it's totally one-sided. But anyway, but I just have a bad feeling in my stomach. Bo might be pissed off. And, that could either be 500 yards or 5 interceptions, right? I think it's I could see him going off this week just as much as I could see him not. And it's Bo. Like I said, history has told me I'd rather bet on Bo than against Bo, even at this stage. But
I would consider
Bombers are a 10-point better. Sorry.
I would consider myself the most neutral Bomber take on the podcast, right? Like between the two of you, I think you've got very strong.
Mike loves him. I hate him, and Ryan just doesn't care.
Yeah, I'm just in the middle.
And I wear a green shirt, so really, does my opinion count?
Does it make it even more clear if I put on this BC Ohioans hat? There we go. I'm drinking the blue and gold Kool-Aid right now. I really am with the Bombers. I think the defense, to me, this is the top defense in the CFL. I think it has surpassed the Alouettes, in my opinion, as being the number one defense in the CFL. Number one points allowed, 19.7 points allowed per game. Number one total offense, 319 yards allowed. Only allowing 222 passing yards a game, tied with Toronto for allowing the least first downs. This defense went basically 3 straight games without allowing a touchdown to Vernon Adams and Nathan Rourke. They allowed one on the final play from David Mackey after Mike O'Shea tried to ice the backup quarterback with the timeout with 4 seconds left to keep the streak alive. I think the defense has been really solid. I also kind of believe in an uptake on the offense, which is why I did trade for Zach Collaros in our fantasy league this week. I think Kenny Lawler being back is huge for them. I think we saw that last week. And not only, Lawler had an okay game, but I think it opens a ton for Nick Dempsey. And that's big because Dempsey was struggling for a lot earlier in the season.
He was annoying last week. If I was for BC, he just got those crazy second and medium pickups all the time, which we were used to him seeing, right, Dempsey?
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing it lately. So, yeah.
My take on Winnipeg is pretty straightforward. I mean, Oliveira's been good so far this season. Hasn't been maybe doing those all-star runs, but Oliveira always was a fourth quarter quarterback. He could run to the wind in the fourth quarter. 3 quarters before that, he makes some good runs, but he'd make him second and manageable if he did. He did the same thing as Dembski used to do. But they got Kenny Lawler back. That's huge. Ontario Wilson has been pretty decent this year so far. Nick Dembski's finally learned how to cover up the football and carry it instead of dropping it every 20 plays. And Zach Collaros has finally learned how to throw a touchdown again. All they need is Chris Trevler to start carrying the football a little bit more, and they should be good in offense. Defense, you're right, Ryan. This team has been pretty good on the run or on the pass defense. I still question them on the run defense.
They're last in the league in run defense, but that's because teams are just running the ball on them because they can't pass. I think that's part of it. That's part of the run defense isn't good. It's part also.
But when you look at a team going forward into the cold weather, you got to block up the run, and Winnipeg can't do it. So until they can block up that run, this team will be right in the middle of the pack every time you look at them. Honestly, I could see Greg Bell, who's had a really good start to the first 2 games in his career, has been very good yardage. I could see him running all over Winnipeg if Hamilton figures out that they should run the football. And they use Greg Bell.
Well, that brings into the next, and we'll bring into the fantasy players to watch here is watch the depth chart to figure out what the heck is happening at running back for Hamilton. James Butler was not on the depth chart last week. Greg Bell got the start. According to the injury report, James Butler was a healthy scratch. According to Scott Milanovich, he was injured the week before and was a little banged up, and they were giving him time to rest. That doesn't sound like a healthy scratch to me, so somebody's lying in all of this, and I don't know who it is, and we won't know until we see the depth chart. Either way, yes, the Bombers do allow the most rushing yards in the league. Both of these running backs have been fantastic so far. Bell with 35 fantasy points last week. He got it done on the ground and through the air. He's got a ton of targets. Hamilton really likes to dump it off to the running back for checkdowns, and that's amazing for fantasy. So Butler, same thing. Other than one game earlier this year, though, his lowest total was 11. Earlier this year against Saskatchewan in one of those games where they shut him down. So I think either of these running backs is strong in consideration for me on the Hamilton side. I'm not picking Bo against this Bombers defense, even though Bo has been actually decent from a fantasy perspective. But I think Shamar Bridges needs to be in conversation because he continues to honestly be the most consistent receiver in the CFL this year. I would put in the category probably of Shamar Bridges if it wasn't for Tyson Philpott. He had 2 down weeks in week 7 and 8. Other than that, his lowest total is 14.7. And last week he put up 25.7 points, was the number 1 receiver in fantasy last week. And he is Bo Levi Mitchell's favorite target right now. So if you're going for any Hamilton receiver, I think that's the one you go with. I've got some thoughts on the Bombers side, but I'll turn it over to you guys. Anybody on Hamilton or Winnipeg you've got in this game? Let's go to you first, Adam.
Greg Bell, if he's playing, I mean, he looked very decent. He's very cheap. He'd be a good pickup. Yeah, I still can't believe I gave Shamar Bridges to Trey for pretty much nothing. Still can't believe I did that move. Anyways,
arguably Shamar Bridges and Nathan Rourke for absolutely nothing. So.
I couldn't get Nathan Rourke. I mean, there was a different reason behind that, but I mean, I got AJ Ouellette essentially is what I got, and most times that would be a brilliant trade. And then AJ Ouellette gets injured and goes on the 6-game injury list. So, am I a little peeved? Oh yeah, but nevertheless, that's the way you play fantasy. So yeah, Bridges should be on my fantasy list. I'd like to put Tim White on there. I mean, he had some decent points last week, but $12,000? No. Maybe Bo Levi as well, but he's a little too expensive for what you're getting, I think.
Anybody on the Winnipeg side for you?
I've got Brady Oliveira right now. I do like him just because he has been kind of one of the consistent guys for the Bombers. Kenny Lawler, he's been better. He's another target, but he doesn't seem to get a lot of reception or touchdowns quite yet. But he is another target, so, I mean, you could look at him. And Nick Dembski's had some good games as well. Actually, sorry, I do have actually one more. Right now, my quarterback is Zach Collaros.
Sounds like I made a good trade.
Yeah, thanks.
Trey, you got Zach Collaros in your lineup?
Hell no. I have the only Bomber I have right now is one Nicholas Dembski. I'm assuming it's short for Nick Dembski. I don't know because he impressed me last week. I thought about it during the game when I'm watching because, you know, when you watch a game, regardless of who you cheer for, you have the fantasy and you have the betting and you have your actual allegiances. And fantasy me was screaming every time Dembski got a first down because that means Nathan Rourke can't get me fantasy points because he's on the bench. So Nick Dembski is my pick.
On the Winnipeg side, I've got Collaros in top consideration for my quarterback this week also, actually. I think he's steadily improved, in the last couple of weeks. Hasn't been super flashy, but averaging just under 15 fantasy points in his last 5 games. Still only has 1 game of 2 touchdown passes this year, but he's playing the Ticats defense, and he does have Kenny Lawler back. And I feel like this is the type of game. He's averaged 300 passing yards a game exactly in his last 3 games as well. So we're finally starting to get Collaros back a little bit here. So I maybe lean that way, but I almost don't want to go too heavy on the one team. I think Brady Oliveira has to be one of the top running back plays almost every week. He has averaged, let's see, in his last, 7 games? Last 6 games, he's averaged 17.9 points. He's getting, the rushing yards on the ground, 3 games over 100 yards, about 4 or more receptions in almost every game this year. So I think Oliveira is one of the most consistent plays you can get, much like we talked about with Kadeem Carey earlier. In terms of the wide receiver, do you go Lawler? Do you go Nick Dembski? Kenny Lawler is the pick for me here because I think he's due. I think they tried him on that deep route for a couple of touchdowns. It didn't work out last week. I think he's due again this week. Also, if you want to play the favorable position matchups, the Ticats give up 15 points a game, worst in the CFL, to the left slot back where Lawler lines up. And they completely shut down the right side of the field, which is where Nick Dembski normally lines up. So I think that is a prime opportunity for Collaros to attack the left side. And honestly, I may consider the Bombers as my defensive player of the week based on them shutting down the Ticats here. That is what I've got for fantasy. So let's go over to betting.
Oh boy, Hamilton plus 9.5 going into Princess Auto Field, minus 9.5, over under 49.5. First of all, I'll take the under 49.5. Give me the plus 9.5 Hamilton and also throw down Hamilton money line. I think this is a trap game. And I'm going to enjoy booing when I'm wrong and Collaros throws for 500 yards when I'm there. Ryan, you're going to see me leaving at halftime if the Bombers are up 30-0, man. So I'm going to go with that. Ryan, what do you got?
This is the type. I said this in our chat the other day. This is the type of game that it doesn't really matter what I pick because I'm going to get it wrong, right? Whenever the spread is like this, I just feel like I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to take the Bombers, though. I hyped them up so much before. I think I have to take Winnipeg. I will take them to cover the 9.5 here as well. I think defense shuts it down again pretty well. No, I'm taking Winnipeg on the minus 9.5 here, Trey, as you're typing it in.
Well, you said it will be 10.
No, I think it will be. I think this team is on the uprise right now, and I don't know what to make of Hamilton really anymore at this point. So, give me the Bombers here and over. Give me the under.
Adam?
First things first, I'll flip the coin because the coin knows more than I do usually. Let me just flip that for you.
Oh, and one fun fact while we wait, Winnipeg is 1-3 against the East this year. So,
Ooh.
Another reason. Anyway, I like those stats. Anyway, Adam, coin?
The coin got the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I guess, the win.
One sexy coin.
That's a weird coin. Anyways, I'm going to go with Hamilton.
He's beating us, right? The coin, or he or she, it's beating us this year.
I think this is actually going to be a little bit of a close game. I said before I don't trust Hamilton to do anything, but I say this will be a closer game than you think. Within a touchdown, so I'll go Hamilton to cover. Still think Winnipeg's going to win this one. And I'm going to go with the over because this game could just get chaotic in the end.
It does have that kind of vibe where it could be chaotic.
And, Winnipeg, and it's kind of hot weather right now with kind of the chance of storms at any time like it is in Saskatchewan too right now. Could be a fun game to watch. Unless halftime it's storming and, game gets canceled. Then that would suck.
Supposed to rain on Friday? I know it's supposed to rain tomorrow here.
Whether it's Winnipeg, Hamilton, Winnipeg, Edmonton, one of those games gets canceled or delayed every single time, it seems. So it's whenever one of those two teams comes to Winnipeg that we get storm delays. What do you got for prop bets? Trey, I see you typing one in our doc here.
Yeah, I got Zach Claros under 1.5 passing TDs. It actually would have some value taking the over because it has plus odds. I just don't think he's going to do it because anytime they get close to the red zone, they go to Chris Streveler. So, you got
that's fair. I would be tempted actually on the over on the other end because of what I said on Claros there, but I'm going to go with hyping up Kenny Lawler and give him over 66.5 receiving yards. I think he's in for a big day against this Ticats defense that is not going to be any better under Chris Jones.
So, question for you, Trey. If a player is not active in a game and there's a bet allowed on him right now, do you just get the under if he has 0 yards because of it?
I think there's a requirement they have to play a snap or something like that.
They'll refund it. I think they'll refund it.
Are you trying to take the under on James Butler?
Absolutely what I'm going to do because I'm going to say that he takes 1 snap and then they put Greg Bill in there.
If he takes 1 snap, then the bet is good. He just honestly, if he's dressed and out there, I think it might count. He doesn't need to play it down if he's eligible.
Greg Bell has been a good player for the last few weeks, and I think because of that, James Butler will get a snap or 2. But I think they're going to rotate Bell in, and that's going to mean he won't get over 67.5 yards. So give me the Bell or give me the Butler for under 67.5.
You're devious. I love it.
All right, third game of the week here. It's the BC Lions visiting the Ottawa Red Blacks. Is this one TD Pacific, or is that's next week? I think the two teams play each other again on the game out in the Pacific this year instead of Touchdown Atlantic. So the Lions getting right off a back-to-back with the Bomb. Oh, I guess it wasn't a back-to-back for them. Sorry, they had another game in between. But now they've got a home-and-home going on with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Big storyline to start off with here is Nathan Rourke. Hyped up return. Everybody put him in the fantasy lineup. Everybody had high expectations for him last week. Completed 8 passes through 2 picks and looked terrible against the Bombers last week. So let's start off with what are the expectations for him against Ottawa with another week of practice here, Trey?
Just stop throwing it to the other team would be one. I don't, he had a couple of those, or a lot of close ones too last week. Other than that, just keep getting the rust off. I was very surprised. He looked like a guy who really hasn't played football in months, and he hasn't
really, right?
I know, but he looks like more like a guy. He looks more like what I would expect Chad Kelly would have looked like, literally not being on the field. At least Rourke was in training camps. At least Rourke's played preseason games. At least he's been on the sideline doing some stuff. So that's kind of where I was a little taken back. But, now he's got a full week of practice. Games not till Saturday, so he's got a full week. It's not like a Thursday or anything turning around. What was it, Sunday, right? They played, and then Saturday. So tons of time to get back. And then again, he's probably – how many NFL teams was he on this offseason? So he's probably got 6 different playbooks in his head. You guys tell me he's got to learn another one in 5 days. I think, I think he'll bounce back this week. Adam?
He's been at OTCs. He was still in the film rooms. He was still all of the places doing a little bit for training camps when he was still there with Atlanta. He should not be rusty. I don't care. You know what? I know it's the CFL. It takes a little bit of adjustment maybe real quickly, but still, you played this game before. You know what this game is. You were the MOP. There's really no big reason for this rust from Nathan Rourke. And what the big problem is in BC is his wide receivers are just not getting open and not really doing much for him. It don't matter if you have Vernon Adams in there, if you had Doug Flutie, or if you had anybody else. If your receivers can't make a catch, that's kind of a problem. So I think right now what the BC Lions need to do is get Keon Hatcher involved in this game. He's been big back in the day with Nathan Rourke. Yes, Justin McInnes might take a little bit of time to get used to with him. Alex Hollins, he did play the game against Winnipeg in the playoffs that one year, and that's really when Hollins kind of stood out. But Keon Hatcher has been with Nathan Rourke quite a while, and they were making some great chemistry when they were together. So I think they need to really get Keon Hatcher going and find a way to make him open so that Nathan Rourke has some familiarity and get going in this game here against Ottawa early.
I think the thing we have to remember with Keon Hatcher as well is he wasn't expected to be back till October originally, right? From I think it was an Achilles injury. So he was crazy ahead of schedule where I had kind of written him off, and then suddenly, oh yeah, he might be back by like week 7 or something like that. So is that part of it too, that Hatcher is just taking a bit of time to get back into the swing of things? Maybe. I would assume they wouldn't have rushed him back too quickly from injury, but between him and McInnes and Hollins, yeah, I agree. They have to step it up. I saw some drop balls last week. I saw some passes for Rourke that we had never seen from him back in 2022 when he was the starter there. So I think they all kind of have to hone it in and get things back on track. And the defense has to as well. The defense hasn't looked fantastic in recent weeks either. So overall, there's not a lot of mojo going on for the Lions now, and they've kind of nosedived since the start of the season, where they were the top offensive team in the CFL and nobody was going to stop them. And now it's a question of, can they get anything going, and how much of this is, they've been really shut down in 2 games against the Bombers, but they had a game against the Elks in between there as well that the offense didn't look great. So BC's got to get that back on track this week. And I think a little more practice time for Rourke. He's not going to be that bad every week. He might not return to the form we saw in 2022. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Maybe we see something a little more in between, at least over the next couple of weeks as he gets back into things. What do we think on the Ottawa side of things here? Ottawa last week, were they on the bye last week? Yeah. No, they beat the Calgary Stampeders in the Thursday night game with Jeremiah Mazzoli at quarterback in that one. But it sounds like Drew Brown is taking first-team reps in practice this week and is back this week. What do you guys think about the Red Blacks here? Any opening thoughts?
They're the last team to go undefeated at home, if you count the bye or the tie. They haven't lost at home all year out of any team. So, I mean, in this game's in Ottawa, I'm surprised by them. 6-2-1? That's a lot better than a lot of us thought. And well, a couple people were higher on Drew Brown. I might have been one of them. I can't remember.
You definitely were.
But he hasn't even been one of the guys doing it. And they've been doing it without him or with Mazzoli or Crum. And I'm actually very, very surprised about this team. And they've been playing the West. They've only played 2 games against the East. So
that's crazy.
So that's all this 5 of their wins have come against the West, which, I mean, over the last 6-7 years, I don't think any of us would say that about many of the Eastern teams, right? But Adam, what do you think about Ottawa?
You know what? So far, I mean, yes, Drew Brown has done really good as the starting quarterback. I was kind of surprised that they put Jeremiah Mazzoli in last week. Mazzoli, though, looked okay. I mean, they didn't do anything wrong to hurt his team. And of course, they won the game. But their defense, actually, I've been very impressed with so far this season. They 263 yards on average for giving up a game, which is 3rd, I think, in the CFL. They've given a few other little pieces, haven't given very much and gotten guys into, I think, 3rd against getting teams to get into the red zone. They've been very good in their defense so far. And I mean, they average 6.1 yards on first down given up, which isn't terrible bad, considering there's been a lot of yards given up all season. I think the Ottawa defense has really come on its own. The offensive line has helped Drew Brown kind of adapt and learn this game a little bit more. And they've always had a good receiving core. Don't matter. You got to give them credit when they are. I mean, you got Jalen Ackland, you got Braylon Addison, you've got Justin, don't call him Jake Hardy. You've got all sorts of great players. I mean, Dominic Rhymes on this team, you brought him in thinking he was going to be a big piece. He just filled in. He doesn't really have to be the big guy because there's so many other great pieces on this Ottawa receiving core. So, and not only that, then they also brought in Raquel Armstead from the middle of nowhere, and he's been a good running back. So, credit to Ottawa's scouting team. They've done a very good job. They've brought in the players they've needed to bring in. They easily can give BC a good run for their money, and you're right, they're undefeated sort of at home.
And And they've kind of proven that you really don't need to spend up on a running back, right? Like, and injuries definitely play a factor into it, but it's almost like in hindsight, 2020, looking at it, of how much did the Riders pay AJ Ouellette this year versus how much are the Red Blacks paying Raquel Armstead, who came out of nowhere and is outproducing him so far this season throughout the year.
But he's not the only example of that. I mean, you look at the running games so far in the CFL, who's some of the top receivers we're talking about right now? I mean, I've been mentioning Greg Bell a few times, Raquel Armstead, and then, of course, go look at Edmonton, what they're doing for their running backs.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in the next game. Running backs across the league, I also feel like catching a lot more passes this year than ever before, and Armstead's been in that category at 6 catches last week as well. So, yeah, everything's going well for Ottawa right now, and the fact that I love that Mazzoli got to come in there and get his one win, and Drew Brown's the guy you go with definitely going forward here this year, but I love that Mazzoli finished that game, got his win, and if he doesn't touch the field as a starter for the rest of the season, at least he can say that it ended off on that positive note. If it's, how much longer is he playing there? But Drew Brown is back this week. I think that's good for them to get their starting quarterback back. He's been a little bit up and down over the weeks. He's looked good, I would say, in terms of managing the game for the most part. He's just got to put more touchdowns on the board offensively. I think that's been Ottawa's biggest struggle there. That if they can do that, their defense has locked it in. They've gotten some touchdowns on the ground. If they can get that passing game a little more effective, I think they're still the second best team in CFL right now, and that's pretty good. That's a pretty good spot to be in when the entire league is currently a mess. Let's get fantasy players to watch on this game. I put on our little form here Nathan Rourke ? Because I'm always going to be tempted, right? Like, we know what Rourke can do. So it's always tempting to go back to Nathan Rourke and say it's going to be better. He faced the best pass defense in the CFL. He was on 3 days of practice. Now he's facing Ottawa, who does have a good defense themselves. But I am always going to be tempted to put Nathan Rourke in at quarterback. So I have to throw him into the options based on the history. I lean away a little bit to seeing, does he get back on track to what he has produced in the past? But it's always going to tempt me and probably cause me to make the wrong choice. But so I have to mention him. And I've got 2 names on the I'm BC-wise, I don't think I want to go with any of the receivers right now because I don't know which one is going to get the hot hand, so to say, in the next couple of weeks. Crazy that we've gone from that beloved BC three stack earlier in the season to now not wanting any of them. I think the return of Hatcher kind of plays into that. I've got 2 names on the Ottawa side, and then I'll throw it to you guys here. Raquel Armstead, we just talked about him. He's looked pretty good. He put up 28 fantasy points last week. Was somehow only good enough for the 3rd best running back of the week, though, based on that. But 120 rushing yards, 6 catches last week, 5 catches the week before. He's gotten solid usage through the air every single week. And I think that is a weak point of the BC Lions, is their ability to stop the run. So I think Armstead is a good potential fantasy play at the running back position. And of the receivers in Ottawa, I kind of like Jalen Acklin. Justin Hardy's been your consistent guy for the most part, but he's been down the last 2 weeks. Jalen Acklin has finished top 11 in the last 3 weeks with averaging about 13 fantasy points in each of those games and getting 7+ targets in each of them. So if you want an Ottawa receiver, Acklin would be the guy I would probably lean towards right now because it seems like he's getting back into that rhythm. Who you guys got on BC or Ottawa, Trey?
I just got my boy Armstead, man. I'm gonna keep riding him. And BC, like, I'm with you. I'm staying away from that. I did have Rourke in earlier, but I don't know about that. Adam?
Yeah, Rourke burnt me last week, so I'm not putting him in this week just because of that reason. Although, you're right, he can go off at any time on any team, anywhere, but I think it's going to take a week or 2 to get adjusted back to the league. Yet from last week, so no. Keon Hatcher is who I've got on the BC Lions right now, and the reason being is, again, familiarity with Nathan Rourke. I think he's going to get a lot of targets, Will he get them all? That's the next question. But if I'm going to take anybody, I'd probably take Hatcher over on the Lions on the Ottawa side. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Rye Armstead right now. I think he's been really good, and you're right. He needs to get in the end zone. Other than that, he doesn't really have a knock on him.
All right, yeah, that's what we got for our fantasy players on this game. So let's go to betting picks.
Yeah, this one's close. BC's the road favorite, -1 going into Ottawa. Over under 50. I'm going to take Ottawa with the point and the money line. I think they should be the favorite in this game. Honestly, I understand the work effect, and that's probably what it is. Because they're trying to, yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna take that and take the over 50 in this one. Ryan?
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you on both of these here. I'm tempted to go with the Rourke effect on this one, but I think I'm in the mode of show me that you're getting back on track this week, because not only does Rourke have to be on his game, the defense has to step up. And Mike and I talked about it at length on the Monday show this week that you can catch in the podcast audio feeds of I don't think Rourke coming in solves all the problems the Lions have any more than VA did, and they had those same problems when he was playing. So I think there's enough that Ottawa, normally this is a game I feel like I would pick BC, but I will take Ottawa on this one. And sure, I'll take the over on it as well. I think some points could go on the board, especially if Rourke gets back on track. Adam?
I'm going to go with the Ottawa Red Blacks. I think that's an insult to them for being a team that has been undefeated, except for against Saskatchewan. You guys lost that game in overtime there. But
you lost that game in regulation, though, Adam.
Still tied in the end. That's all that matters.
We all lost because we had to sit through the command center reviews with no audio.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'll give you that. Anyways, no, Ottawa, I think, is if I was doing them, I would go and use that as billboard material saying BC's just going to come in here and show us. No, don't think so. I'm still not sold on Rourke and the offense. The defense has been kind of a little bit questionable lately for BC. So, yeah, Ottawa for sure is what I'm going to go with. And I'll go with the over on this game. It could turn into a shootout as well. Although Ottawa's pretty good this year. Actually, you know what? I will go on the under. I think, I think Ottawa's got a better chance there to hold them off. The coin tells me that it will be, tells me the Ottawa Red Blacks will win this game. Yeah, go from there.
I'm honestly surprised we all ended up on Ottawa in this one, including the coin. Player props, Trey, you got one here?
Yeah, I got to go Armstead over 68.5 rushing. I think that's a pretty easy one to get. And, yeah, what do you guys got?
I don't like any of the receiver ones that much, and I don't want to double up on Armstead, so I'll go different here. I'm going to go Nathan Rourke over 1.5 touchdown passes. I think he gets back on track enough to get 2 this week, so I'll take that one here. Adam, you got a player prop on this game?
I'm looking here, and honestly, I don't have a whole lot that I really like. I'll give you one just for the fun of it, and we'll see if this works out for me. I'm going to say the Ottawa Red Blacks will be leading at halftime. Plus 1.5. What the heck? May as well try that one. I haven't tried it before, so see how that works for me.
All right. I think we move into our final game of the week here, which is the Edmonton Elks visiting the Montreal Alouettes. The Edmonton Elks have been the talk of the town in recent weeks as they've finally gotten themselves back on track and are now they're still last in the West Division, but suddenly they are 2 points back of Winnipeg and Calgary for a playoff spot after 3 straight wins and have gone from the 8th best rushing attack in the CFL to now number 3 in the span of 3 weeks because of the likes of Javon Leake, Justin Rankin, and they seem to be finding an effective game plan that nobody can shut down right now. Where do you guys stand on the Elks? Are you buying in on Edmonton from what we've seen the last couple of weeks, or or is it just me? Adam?
No, I'm not buying in at Edmonton yet. I said that offensive line was poor. It's still poor. Yeah, they managed to push a few holes open, and Justin Rankin has done a very good job of learning the CFL game very quick. I think he's a good running back. I think once there's some film on him, he's not going to be such a good running back. You know what? Kevin Brown is back this week. I think that might give him a little bit of insight. I don't think you're going to see Brown much, maybe on returns, because Javon Leake sounds like he is injured for the day or for the game. I think still it's kind of a toss-up on who the quarterback's going to be. I mean, McLeod Bethel-Thompson had a good week last week. Does he have a good one again against Montreal? Hard to say. Could it be Trey Ford coming in? He sounds like
MBT is, I think, confirmed to be the starter this week. It looks like Trey Ford might not even dress.
Yeah, so I don't know. To me, like I said, I think if I was going in this game here, and one thing I wanted to bring up here too, and this is maybe I'll bring it up on the Montreal side. Never mind. Trey, what do you got in this game? You still think Edmonton's a contender all of a sudden?
I think they're doing better than Hamilton. They look better than that. I think they're
doing better than Hamilton.
That's what I mean. But I've been kind of impressed with their last couple of games, and I think that this might be their first kind of test since bouncing back, right? Because what did they have? They had win against Hamilton, who congratulations. A win against BC, who's been rolling downhill pretty quick. And so I mean, and then they lost to Hamilton before that. So I want to see one game. I don't think they win this game, but I want to see how they play. If is it over at halftime, then no, it's the old Edmonton. If they're competitive and it's a field goal kind of looking game, then I'm a little bit more on their side.
Here's the main reason I'm high on the Elks. I love everything they've done in the last couple of weeks, and the fact that they continued that run game with MBT back in over Trey Ford last week, because I was worried that was going to kind of die off. If you go back to early in the season, half the games the Elks lost, they lost by a last-second field goal because of some stupidity late in the game, right? And that was in the Chris Jones era. Chris Jones goes out. They've got new life in the locker room. Momentum is one hell of a thing for a football team to kind of, and the morale in the locker room can go a long way to rectifying some of those stupid mistakes. So this seems like a team to me that has found a recipe for success that they're buying in on in recent weeks. They are now the best offense in the CFL. Who saw that coming? They scored the most points per game out of anybody on the season. And I think it's going to be a tight match between these two teams this week. I'm very excited for it. And I think if they can get through this, especially if they steal a win this week, then you've got the home and home with Calgary, which we're not really sold on the Stamps right now either. And followed by a home and home with the Bombers after that. I think the Elks have the potential to move up the standings here in the West Division, and I would love to see it. That would be wild. Can Edmonton go all the way to hosting a home playoff game? We'll see. Anything can happen in this wild, wild West. Adam, you had something you wanted to bring up on the Montreal side, so we'll go to there next and talk about the Alouettes, who have Cody Fajardo back this week.
Yeah, you know what? That's what I wanted to bring up a little bit here. The CFL rule with you got to have 3 quarterbacks is just getting manipulated already by teams, in my opinion. Cody Fajardo's been hurt for how long, and all of a sudden, now he's ready to go. Okay, we'll throw him in there. But he's been sitting in the number 3 spot where somebody could be learning valuable reps about the CFL game in a rookie spot. If Fajardo's hurt, allow another quarterback to be in there. I mean, we're seeing it also in British Columbia right now. Vernon Adams is hurt, and he's legitimately not even taking practices, but he'll be listed as the number 3 in the depth chart. It's not a great move. Yeah, it's dumb. It's killing fantasy guys because suddenly you got to play them. Like Ryan right now, he's suffering because of that. But my thing is, you could be developing a third quarterback like the next Nathan Rourke, who was a third quarterback when he was starting in this league. But they won't do it because, you know what, we got to have we don't want Vernon Adams all of a sudden to be off our roster, so we got to make sure we keep him. So we're going to put him in the 3rd spot. So CFL, get better at that. That being said, Alouettes, yeah, it's good Cody Fajardo's back. It's going to be very interesting to see what he does with that hamstring injury. if he still has the throwing power and the ability like he did, or if he's maybe a little bit soft on that throw. Who knows? I mean, he was warming up there when Alexander took a huge hit last week in Saskatchewan, but was he actually going to go? Don't know. But, sounds like he's been practicing. He's ready to go. So, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens here in Montreal. Big acquisition, though, this week. Want to talk about it, Trey?
No. Sorry, it took me a second. I don't. I did until I lost out on the waiver wire, then I don't.
I mean, I got beat too, so don't feel too
bad. It took me a while that the whole video was in French, so I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then I could never see the name of the player, so I was like, what? Who did they sign? Was it Mac?
Yeah, Austin Mack with the Montreal Alouettes, huge boost. He was their top receiver last season. Him and Fajardo had that fantastic connection there, and I think that's a huge boost that you get this time of year. You always get these guys coming back from NFL. They'll try it out for a bit, go through preseason, and then suddenly they return. And Mack is as good as any of them if he can return to that form. And I think it's a huge boost for this Montreal team that has Tyson Philpott on the 6-game injured list as well. So getting Mack back in there, you still got Rambo. You've still got, guys like Cole Speaker in there as well. I think Cody Fajardo's got some weapons to work with here in his return to the lineup as well. I agree with you, Adam, by the way, on the whole 3 quarterbacks thing. It screwed me over so much the last couple of weeks in our fantasy league. I think we have to rework the waiver wire rules for next year, which will be a topic of conversation in the offseason. Fajardo is back starting this week. To be honest, I don't agree with the decision to do that. If I was the Alouettes, they have the bye coming up next week. I would continue playing Davis Alexander. He's 3-0 in his 3 starts. I would play him this week. I would give Fajardo another 2 weeks to rest, get him to play coming back out of the bye, play for a while, probably lock up first in the East at some point, and then you can play Alexander down the stretch when it doesn't matter, to give him more reps in there is how I would handle it. Because I don't think there's any need to rush Fajardo back based on how Davis Alexander has played. He's looked pretty good, and Montreal might have the best, second best behind Rourke and VA quarterback tandem in the CFL, in my opinion. Let's get into fantasy players to watch for this game, and let's throw Cody Fajardo into that list. Before he got injured, he was looking pretty darn good, averaging 19.6 fantasy points on the season. That does include a game where he finished with 2.98. Other than that, he was averaged 22 points a game. So Fajardo was locked in early this season. He gets Mack, his favorite target, back this week as well, facing the Elks, who have had some defensive issues this year, even though they've looked a little better in recent weeks. The only cause for concern on my end would be that how does he play coming off the injury, and if they're going to be a little more conservative with him there. Of the Montreal receivers, I'm been high on Charleston Rambo in the last couple of weeks. 4 top 10 finishes in his last 5. But I think he excelled from having Alexander as a starting QB in that connection. I don't think his connection is as good with Fajardo. He's also been playing at the spot on the field where Austin Mack played last season. So is he going to move around the field? I think I'm out on Rambo for this week, but I'm in on Austin Mack if he does get a chance to play. And we'll have to wait and see for the depth chart. That does come out on Saturday because the game is on Sunday. That's my 2 names on the Montreal side. I got 2 more on the Elks side, but I will throw it to you guys first on that. Adam, what do you got in this game?
I've got Austin Mack, I think, is the only one I've got right now for the Montreal Alouettes.
Is he in game zone?
Yeah, he's in.
What's the price?
10.4 thousand. So
okay.
No, he's there. I think he'd be a good pick. Again, that seems to be a spot that Cody Fajardo likes to aim for, is right where he is usually located. I'm sure he's getting his spot back. Charleston Rambo will move probably where Tyson Philpo is right now, I would imagine. Which he might get lots of targets there too if he does, because Philpo has been busy this season. But I don't know if I'd really trust him to catch all the balls right there right now. So, yeah, give me Austin Mack. I was thinking Fajardo for a while, but I'm still worried about that hamstring injury. So, until we see that. The other option I maybe would have, and just a thought, was Walter Fletcher, but he's so inconsistent. Sometimes he's brilliant, sometimes he's poor. It's against Edmonton, and traditionally Edmonton's not been great on the run defense, but lately they've been good in run defense. So, I don't know. Like I said, probably the only one I'll go with is Austin Mack.
The only thing I have against Fletcher, because you mentioned, running backs always excel against the Elks, is I don't think of Fletcher as a running back. He's a receiver in a running back's body. Like, he hasn't had more than 8 carries once in his last 7 games. So if you're banking on the good rushing matchup with the Elks, well, they're not going to run the ball with him. So it doesn't really line up in that category for me. But I agree. Thought about him, but a little bit inconsistent in that regard. Trey, what do you got?
Sorry. We were talking about at Montreal or Edmonton. I zoned out hard for a second.
Talk about both. Yeah, what do you got on both sides?
See, I kind of I hope Rambo does pretty good on Montreal's side because I have him on my other league, so I kind of look at him. And then the other side, I would either like Racken or Leak. If Leak plays, I kind of lean on him a little bit more, but I definitely see where – is he officially out? No, probably not yet, eh?
We're not officially in the depth chart, but it sounds likely Leak is not going to play this week.
And that's fine. Go with Racken there on that one.
Yeah, on the Edmonton side, I've got Justin Rankin as well. What he's done since coming in from being the third string running back to also the second string and now potentially the starter is pretty impressive. 60 yards on 10 carries in week 9, 77 on 7 carries week 10, and then 108 yards and 3 touchdowns on 17 carries last week after Leak got injured. So I think Justin Rankin is the starting running back going forward for the Elks and should be. When Leak is healthy, I think you move him back to returns, which is what you brought him in for, and let Rankin handle the main job and Leak can spell in there. I think Kevin Brown's going to be back on the roster this week, but I have a hard time putting him in for reps over Rankin based on how they've played this year. So I would lean Rankin as one of my top running back plays this week, especially given they face the Alouettes, who have a great pass defense, but much like the Bombers, are a little more susceptible to the run. So I think, if anything, Edmonton's game plan is run the ball, and Montreal, the way to beat Montreal's defense is to run the ball. If I were to pick a Edmonton receiver with McLeod Bethel-Thompson at quarterback, it's always going to be Curly Gittens Jr. because it's his favorite target. And Gittens has finished as a top 10 receiver in 3 of the last 4 weeks, had 13 fantasy points in each of the last 2 games. So if you're taking any Edmonton receiver, I think he would be my favorite with Bethel-Thompson at quarterback. Adam, did you have anybody on the Edmonton side? I think we just talked about the Montreal side for you.
Yeah, I've got Rankin right now. I think he's a cheap play. He's been a really good running back so far. Though I am a little bit nervous because there's a guy named Beverett over on the other side of Montreal that's been wreaking havoc on anybody that even touches the football. So we'll see what happens here, but I probably will play Rankin just because I do like to run 3 running backs. So.
All right, let's get to our betting picks on this game.
Yeah, Edmonton +6 going into Montreal, over under 51.5. I'll actually take Edmonton to cover the 6.5 there, but I do have Montreal winning that one, and I will go over 51.5. Ryan?
This is my big upset of the week. Give me the Edmonton Elks on the money line this week against the Montreal Alouettes. I haven't seen a team shut it down. This rushing attack for them, and I think that's how you beat Montreal. And with questions on Fajardo coming out off the injuries, so for sure I'm taking Edmonton +6 on the spread. So I think it'll be a close game. Maybe I would honestly maybe even lean towards the money line. And yeah, I think some points could be scored in this game for sure. So give me over 51.5.
I'm going to put it simply in this game here. The party's over, Edmonton. You got a good team to play against. They're upset that they really didn't look good against Saskatchewan, other than, Brett Lawler deciding to give the Alouettes the game. Cody Fajardo's back. Austin Mack is back. The Alouettes are going to win this one, and they're going to win this one handedly. I'll even go with the under I'll go on the under on this game just because I think it's going to be all Montreal. Like I said, Beveretts look great. The defense is really wanting to show something. And one of the hottest teams in the league is coming in to Edmonton. The old air horns will be high and loud. Montreal's winning this one, I think, pretty easily, guys. That way, let's see what it tells me. Coin's arguing with me. It's going to be the Edmonton Elks by the Coins theory.
I've always liked this coin.
You would like a Saskatchewan Roughrider coin, right? Yeah. Anyway,
hey, a dollar is a dollar, man.
Dollar God is a dollar earned. Anyways, prop bets. What do we got for this one, guys?
I got one I like already. I'm going to go with Old Faithful. Gittins over 4.5 receptions. I think that's pretty given, and especially an easy one if it is same game parlay available on FanDuel. That's an easy one to get the odds a little up on a little parlay. Ryan, you got something?
Yeah, I'm going to take a rare under on this one, and I'm going to go with Charleston Rambo under 73.5 with the asterisk that I only take this if Mac is in and playing and Rambo's moved around on the depth chart a little bit. I think that's a pretty high total. I mean, he's earned it based on his play in recent weeks, but for all the reasons I talked about in the fantasy segment, I think I'm going to go under on that one because I really don't like very many of these other props on this game that they have here. Besides the getting one, but you took that. So, Adam, you got anything?
Just taking a look here at the moment. I can't see anything I really like. Usually I do the running backs, but we only got one running back listed, and that's Walter Fletcher. If I would have to go with that one, let's say under for him for 52.5 yards. It doesn't sound like a lot of yards to really get for a running back that's really the running back. Because, I mean, they don't play Antwi either really that much unless he's going to get a third down conversion.
Dribble kick,
yeah. They should have that on there. That would be fun watching, counting the amount, or over-under on the amount of dribble kicks Antwi gets in a game. Anyways, no, I'm going to go ahead and under on Walter Fletcher just for 52.5 yards, and we'll see if that one works.
I like it. And if you're not comfortable, just don't bet anything. Right? Don't bet the farm.
Yeah, except for Trey's turned me into a degenerate gambler, so,
Well, yeah. But that's what this show's all about.
I hit a pretty good underdog parlay on UFC last weekend. The last 3 fights, all 3 underdogs. So
nice.
I'm a little hot.
Congrats. And there's a comment from Richard in the chat here. Before you pick your fantasy captains here this week, make sure you check with him because he has had 4 straight weeks with the captain getting injured. It has been a rough couple of weeks for fantasy-wise where teams have just been sunk. Captain feature, worst feature in all of fantasy sports. I'll say this over and over again because it's absolutely true. All right, let's get into wrapping up today's show here. We've gone through each of the 4 games. We'll do it again next week with our Week 13 preview. Programming notes, starting next week, we are moving to Thursday nights because the CFL is done with Thursday nights. First game of the week is going to be on Fridays. We want a little bit more of that accurate information, which thankfully we'll get more down the stretch of the season. So tune in Thursday night, same time, 10 p.m. Eastern time if you're joining us live over on the YouTube feeds. Yes, we're going up against Thursday night NFL football, but have you seen the types of games they've had in the last couple of years? We're definitely going to be more entertaining than that. So I hope you join us live at the new time change there going forward. Stay tuned as well on social media or in the Discord community for news on extra bonus content coming out in the next couple weeks where we're toying with some ideas perhaps around the Labor Day weekend. Not sure if logistically we'll get those working out, but and then we also will have an NFL fantasy draft going on in the next couple of weeks as well. So look forward to all of that. You can find us on social media on Twitter at CF Countdown Pod or Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod there. You can, of course, check out the Discord with the link in the episode description. It's free to join us over there to chat along with us every week and Final reminder, if you want to get in on that NFL Fantasy League, to join the Discord, hop in the NFL channel and fill out the application form there to sign up to play in our league this year if you are interested. Check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network as well, at CF Pod Network on Twitter, and the Alternative Football Network at the official AFN on Twitter or alternativefootballnetwork.com. I saw some folks from the AFN in the chat earlier this evening. I believe we're playing in a fantasy league with them this year as well, Trey, so that should be some fun.
Sounds like it.
So looking forward to that and doing that draft as well. You can find me at CooperTrooper42 on Twitter. Mike's not here tonight, but you can find him at Mike Garrell. Trey, what's all going on for you right now besides still unpacking boxes?
Yeah, there's still a lot to unpack. Find me at Trey Harness, link on the X. I don't have a lot. I technically got back to work today, but I didn't post a damn thing, so I didn't do a thing. So yeah, see me there for what I got going on. Adam, what do you got going on, man? Man, I'm sad to hear harvest season. That the summer goes by too fast.
It does, but you know what? That means that the fruit of labor is just about into the bin, which is a great thing for us farmers, minus this railway strike, which would really, really mess with us badly. Anyways, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1 over on the X if you want to come and argue with me about Rough Rider stuff or CFL stuff or, well, anything really. Sorry I didn't get a poll up this week, but I will ask the question on here, and then I'll post this poll up shortly today. And this is for the diehard old CFL fans, which was the best CFL theme song? Opening theme song. There was the CBC. They had theirs. Then the TSN Classic, which is still the same one as it is today because we never bothered making a new one. The Friday Night Football theme, the original, or Long Live the Night. You can go take your pick.
I gotta go for Long Live the Night just for how much it frustrates everybody.
I love it. Honestly,
when they did the rock version of Friday Night Football, that was my childhood.
I know that one was great.
That was
but
great.
I love
it was sponsored by Wendy's too, man. That was great.
Yep. My favorite was the CBC theme. I love that old 2005, 2006 theme. That was so great. You knew that you're just getting pumped while watching that to get going to start listening to Wolby go and yell something silly.
Marketing works because I do have Long Live the Night on a playlist. Thanks, CFL. It is catchy, especially when you're going 3rd and 1 from the gun and then turning the ball over on downs. Because that is typically how it goes, especially when you trip over your own offensive lineman's foot.
Also known as the Bo Levi special.
Yeah, well, it was the Chris Trevor special this week. Thanks to everybody who joined us live tonight. Lots of comments in the chat, new folks hanging out in the chat. So thanks for joining us here as well. XFL Mike G from the AFN in the chat, the best football minds of the AFN network. Shout out to them for all of the support of the show there as well. Shout out to all of you for all of your support of the podcast, whatever podcast platform you listen on. We appreciate it if you do all the fun things such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. On behalf of Trey and Adam, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.